Good evening and good evening. Warp 103 bringing you another Life of a Dad of 5. Now you're probably wondering what happened. Usually we have our Dad of 5 videos every 2 weeks, but this month as well you have the coronavirus and things like that, so a lot of things have happened that really threw stuff out of whack for me. So you're probably like, okay, well, it happens, we understand, but to understand you have to actually know what happened. Okay, now everybody should remember the last video that I actually put out is that we was talking about my mother-in-law having dementia, and my wife had to basically, we couldn't care for her anymore. You know, it literally was at the point where she wasn't able to be cared for by us. So, but we was like, okay, well, maybe, you know, we take her to the hospital and everything else, so that get, you know, maybe they need to readjust her meds and things like that, everything else, so that, because that happens. I mean, well, she might have been fighting off a cold. We didn't know exactly what the situation was. So again, my wife did the thing that she did, because again, we've been caring for her for 3 years. So my wife took her to the hospital, checked her in and everything else, and she was there for a few days, and we're figuring that, okay, in my mind it's like that, okay, well, she'll be back in, you know, a few days after the hospital stay to find out what really is the problem, so we can make it better, get her the right meds, whatever she needed and everything else like that. And that was the plan. That is how we looked at it, and that's what we thought. So again, she's in the hospital, and they changed her meds and everything else, because we had on one set of meds and the hospital tested her or something like that. You know, they changed the meds around. They're like, okay, well, that's not working for us and it's not working for you. Let's switch the meds, give her fluids, give her everything the care she needs. Okay. So literally she started to get better. You know, color was coming back into her system. She had a UTI, and so basically, I mean, this thing happens when you get, you know, into that. So it was like, okay, well, she'll be back in a couple of days. You know, my back was completely wrecked at the time. It's like that. So it was like, all right, I'm not saying that, you know, it's a welcome break, but you have to call it what it is. You know, at that point, instead, because again, my wife was working, and I took care of her, watched her and everything else during the daytime, and again, still helping the kids with their work and all other stuff that I have to do. But once I wrecked my back, it made it that I couldn't, you needed 2 people. So with me unavailable to help during the day, you know, that would mean my wife would not be able to work. And again, you can't throw the responsibility on the grandkids, because they're kids. So okay. So we, you know, figuring she's gonna be back in a couple of days. My back, it wasn't better. It was literally still wrecked for weeks to come. But anyway, and it's still bad right now. Not as bad, but it still has issues. So we're like, okay, the wife came home and said, well, they're thinking about putting her in hospice care. You know, what do you think about that? Now, again, we discussed this last time. I was like, well, I don't really think that's a good idea, but it's not my mom. She's like, yeah, but your back is literally wrecked. You know, she's like, you know, how are we going to do this? And I had to agree, because again, there was nothing else I can do at that point. I couldn't, you know, pick her up like I need to, so that shift her around to, move around to get to the places she need to be, or to make sure that she didn't, you know, hurt herself falling over sides, leaning down playing with the dog. So yeah, so we put her in. So we decided, I said, okay, dude. So again, my wife did all the paperwork stuff that she needed alone. And I was basically out of commission, but I was involved in the decision making process and things that we needed to do. We finally got her Social Security worked out. So literally, this happened literally to the hospital a couple of days after we finally got the Social Security thing worked out, where she was actually going to be receiving a check. Because before that point, we were taking care of for 3 years all her bills, medicines, off on our own. There was no help. That was just us taking care of it. Okay, that's fine. So she goes in the hospice, and again, she was getting better. Everything was good. She was on the uptick. Everything was better. And then we had the corona. Yeah. Now you have to think, okay, no one knew about the coronavirus. No one knew nothing about it. You're in a hospital setting. At this point, you should already know what's coming. So, it's been a couple of weeks since out of hospice care. My wife is going there literally every day. After work, she would go there. Actually, she would go before work to go and see her. Then after work, she would go see her and then come home. Stay there for a couple hours. Again, make sure she's eating, make sure she has everything she needs. We're bringing stuff back and forth which she needs. The care center was saying, okay, well, she needs bring slippers, bring this, bring that. We bought all the stuff we needed, bring stuff that was going to make her feel better, make that she was basically in a together. And she had a roommate that my wife was like, oh god. Wife didn't like a roommate, but it was still, that's what was that thing for at the time. So we were like, okay, well, what do you do now? Yeah, well, what you do is you keep going on what you're doing. You got to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be. Sorry, I had to take so we were like, okay, how each day we get a report, or my wife would give me a thing saying, she's doing better. Then all of a sudden it was like the corona hit, and you could not go to see her. Now that really made my wife feel bad that she couldn't go inside her to see her, because she's like, okay, well, I can't even go see my mom right now because of this thing that's going on. That put a strain on stuff, because again, seeing her every day, a couple of years, you know what exactly is happening, what's going on. So then my wife gets a call early in the morning that they put her on oxygen, and it happened to be the same day that they literally, because they were scheduling people to come see the patients through, remedial means, meaning that some can see them through the window, some can see them through doorway, things like that, so you can see, so the person can see it. So that same day, we get a notification in that, well, she's not doing well. But okay, well, they put her on some oxygen. She was having trouble breathing. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound like an issue that came up anywhere for that no one really knew about? I think it is. Now, of course, at the time, we didn't know exactly what the issue was, because again, she never had any issues with any breathing difficulties or anything else like that. Why all of a sudden would she have breathing difficulties now? Sorry. Out, of course, during the stream, stuff like this happens. My apologies. The people that are seeing this actually, or sorry, hearing this on a podcast, you're probably not even thinking about this, but still, okay, it's back. All right, so later on that day, we go in. Wife is like, okay, well, went to see her, and she was perked up. She was good. She was like, okay, well, this is, you're looking better. The oxygen helped and everything else. So that, little do we know, so that when my wife seen her that day, that was going to be the last time my wife would ever see her mom again. All right, so my wife is traveling on her way home after just visiting her. You know, again, just because distancing and coronavirus, she actually didn't get a chance to actually touch her mom or anything else. So that, of course, because all that stuff was governed by, you know, basically, again, when nobody get the coronavirus and everything else to that. So she's on her way home. She called me on the phone and said, okay, well, I'm on my way home and everything else to that. See you in a couple of minutes. I'm going to stop off to the store to get something. On her way back home, he calls her and says, well, your mom just passed away. Now, we're all flabbergasted. We're like, okay, how did this happen? You know, she wasn't, but then you have to look at before that, you know, you think about the corona, then you think back to hospital stay. Could the two be related? Of course it was, but we there's no way for us to know this at the time. How could we? Again, there was a couple of weeks where she, you know, there was no contact between us and her mom physically. Again, we would call the nurses to make sure everything was fine, so that, but you don't know what's going on when you can't see that person every day. You can't see the deterioration that's happening because literally you're not there to see it. You can't see it. You're not allowed to go in. So it was like, okay, something. Then, you know, it dawned, you know, that light bulb went up your head. Yeah, it was that. Now, of course, you know, you can't stuff listed like, because they didn't do all the tests like that later on. So we, you know, everybody already knew what it was. Goodness that she wasn't seen by the family and everything else that when she died, you know, but now you have to try to do a funeral when, again, her brother doesn't live in the state. Her brother's in Georgia. We're in a lockdown mode, even though my wife is an essential person now, she can get back and forth to do stuff and everything else like that. But her brother couldn't get down here to do stuff for the funeral. So basically that left it all on my wife to do. And then that also made it so that she didn't have her brother to lean on to do this. And I'm going to say point blank, I wasn't the best person to deal with the situation, because I made a comment, you know, trying to make some levity and everything else so that came back and bit me in the behind. Because she said, well, you made a comment that, I was like, babe, you know, I didn't mean anything. I'm not trying to say that, you know, you put your mom in there and for her to die. That's not what I meant or said. You know this already. But she was very hurt by the comment. And it wasn't just I made the comment. Unfortunately, my middle daughter and my mother-in-law, that's just like, you know, gas and fire. Just no, they volatile mixtures things get it because get. So my middle child was like, oh well, she died. You know, and even though I even actually talked to my middle daughter about this, it's like, okay, you have to be there for mom. You have to, you know, regardless of how you felt about her, that still was your mom's mom. Your mom is going to be hurting because she lost someone that she loved. Now, again, Sugi being who she is, the outspoken that's the person she was, it didn't. Me and Sugi are of the same type of mindset when it comes to a lot of things, so that tends to be a real downfall of what our character makeup is, because we literally tell it like it is. Now, I don't tell it like it is as much as I did before, for the simple fact is I was told that I can be very hurtful with comments, and I'm like, if what I'm saying is the truth, how can it be hurtful? The truth is the truth. My daughter, again, and I didn't. This is not something I taught her. This is something that how she is. Because again, I have 5 kids, so it's not like I can pick out one and say, okay, I'm going to teach you the ways of the. She calls it the Sith. I call it the being the Jedi Master Elite. We have a certain way of carrying ourselves, so therefore we bring to the table clarity in a wildly chaotic thing. Stuff can be going on, like right now everybody's dealing with the coronavirus and everything, and literally I made a comment like that, well, you know, people are buying toilet paper like it's going out of style instead of buying food. That's just dumb, you know. So literally I speak in a straightforward sort of way. My middle child also speaks in a straightforward sort of way. So it was comments that made that my middle daughter said that mom came to me and, sorry, my wife came to me and said, so that, you know, you and Sugar really hurt my feelings. I'm like, we're not saying anything, or anything we say is not to be malicious. That's not who we are. You know this. We love you with all our hearts. We trying to help you as best we can, but we all have character strengths and character weaknesses, you know. So you figure that when a person's mom died, you know, generally so far down in a dumpster that, you know, you dumpster diving. You know, you're trying to find a silver lining in a otherwise space. Because again, when my mom died, it's like that I was wrecked. There was just, you couldn't console me, and then people that didn't help me when my mom died, I basically cut off, you know, a significant portion of my family. The one person that actually we hadn't been talking in, what, at that point almost 10 years, stepped up and said, you know, which is her sister, said, so okay, I'm there for you. She came down, helped me with the funeral, going to pick out the cards, helping me pick out the urn, helping me, you know, with stuff like that. Now, I wanted to do the same thing for my wife, but I wasn't allowed to do that. Basically, she went with my oldest daughter to go to do the paperwork for the arrangements. So again, she had to go down to see the crematorium to fill out paperwork for that, to get her mother transferred to the crematorium. Then from there, she had to pick out an urn, which our first urn, I'm gonna come back to that. She picked out an urn, and again, you got to arrange for the death certificates, this thing, the other. You also got to, you know, if you're doing cards, there's a lot of things that go on in that short space of time, and of course, the expense as well to do all of these things. And again, no one is helping. You know, it's just us. Our money is here, is available, even though money was tight. This is tight, not just was tight, is tight. You have to do what you need to do. So again, we're running around like chickens with heads cut off, so that, you know, we also dealing with the virus thing. So you got to have the mask on, you have to have the gloves on, but you got to go meet with these people when you really don't want to meet with the people, because basically they said you didn't want you to stay home. So it was a complete and utter chaotic time. Yeah, I mean, even under the best of circumstances, when you lose a mother, that's not a thing. So my wife was literally on, I'm going to say autopilot. Some people called it that, said that, well, she's not feeling because she wasn't crying and everything else to that. But some people deal with grief in different ways. My wife went on full autopilot mode, but I know she was hurting because she was taking jabs at me for stuff that I'm like, what? Why are you? So I'm doing my best to be okay. Oh, yes, dear. Okay, whatever I can help you with. Again, because I'm supposed to be the one that goes with you to do these arrangements. I'm the husband. That's part of my job. So, or if you don't want to even go, I would do it for you. But it wasn't even an option. I wasn't even asked. I literally had, when she was supposed to go to do some of this stuff, I'm like, okay, got my shoes on, got my shirts on, shirt, keys, everything else like that, ready to go out the door. It's like, well, Dad's is going with me. Now, again, with doing the lockdown thing is for that, you cannot have but so many people out. You can't go into an establishment with more than 2 people. So if my oldest daughter's going, I cannot go. Now I can say, well, I'm going and she needs to stay home, but you can't do that, because it's her choice on who she wants with her as a support system. So that hurt that, I wasn't the one that she wanted around and everything else, but you have to deal with that and say, okay, hey, suck it up, buttercup. It's her time that's hurting, that you have to deal with your hurt in a whole different way. You have to deal with your thing in a whole different way. Now, the other kids and everything else, so that, the feelings about their grandmother varied. Again, already know about my middle child. My youngest child, the grandmother was cool. She liked her for that. She get her stuff. They played on the couch, even together and everything else. That did little stuff like that. My oldest son, it was like, here, because again, he lost his room so that she would have a room for her to stay. So basically, he didn't have, even though I had just finished redoing his room, had to take all his clothes out, all his stuff out of that room so he could bunk up with his brother. So he's already put out because of, his stuff has been co-opted. But he was still understandable enough to say that, okay, this is my mother's mother, my grandmother. He dealt with it. Ray on most days was, cool with his grandmother until there's days like anybody else. He doesn't want to be bothered, especially when she would throw stuff down on the floor and so do this or do that. But in the end, it's like when she passed, it's like he still gave his mother, he hugged his mom, saying, sorry, Mom, that you lost your mom and everything else. Is there anything? Basically, they were all supportive as best they could with the situation. So you were like, you have to think of like, okay, well, what do you do now? All right, so we paid the money. Again, that's a lot of change that you have to pay for, again, because there's a lot of things that you have to pay for, even though it wasn't a full type funeral. But with the lockdown, it made stuff that was simple before very difficult. So extra money we had to be paid out so the funeral home can actually do a lot of the running around that normally a person would do to do this stuff. Now, she ordered her urn online, a beautiful urn and everything else that they, so of course, talked to her brother and about the, what we're gonna do since everybody's in lockdown, we can get to doing that. So when, sometime in the summer, hopefully when all this craziness with the coronas, they're supposed to do a meetup to celebrate her life. But again, her other support system, her brother, not available. Right, so now we start running into issues. They're like, okay, well, you have to pick her up in a certain time. How would you like her remains to be placed? Okay, well, we can put her in a box. Now, again, when my wife thought of what the box was, she was figuring it's going to be some plain wooden box, a cheap wooden box, but it was still going to be a box. But she had ordered an urn. So she's like, well, if I buy the urn and bring it to you before time, no, we still have to put it, we can either leave it in the bag or it has to be put in a box. She's like, and I mean the bag itself inside the box. So she's like, okay, no problem. Put it in a box. So she picks up her mother, and lo and behold, the box is a cardboard box for $95. She's like, that's the most expensive cardboard box I've ever seen in my life. Basically, it was a plain, it's literally a box that you get at Walmart for $1.50. That was $95. So again, she's in shock. She come home like that, and I said, "Box, okay, well," and she's like, "Okay, well, this is the box." And I'm like, "That can't be a $95 box. Did they mess up?" No, that's what this is the box. Okay. So she gets the ashes. She's like, she opens the box. You know, it has a card inside of it, and transports, because ashes you have to. If you get on a plane and everything else, that you have to have, so they'll know that it's ashes and everything like that. So she takes the stuff out the box, puts the content, her mother inside of the urn. Don't fit. So she went through a mixture in like 5 seconds between anger, depression, rage. It flooded that section of, because she was in disbelief that, you know, it's then if you're looking at this on Twitch, you can see how frail she was, you know, that she couldn't fit in the size box that she had. So we had to put it back in the $95 cardboard box to put her on the mantle until we can order a new urn. Now, she did get a lovely urn that has hearts on it and everything else like that, and hearts is what her mother liked. Her mother had two dash hounds that when they both died, she got them a small box for their ass, and they have hearts. So that's why she got the wooden box that is a beautiful inlaid wooden box that has hearts inside of hearts inside of hearts. But that took a while for it to get in, and when it finally came in and everything else, that it's like, I don't think it's gonna fit. I'm like, baby, the asses will fit inside of there, because that box is actually bigger than the box that I have for my mother that's also sitting on the counter. Sorry, on the mantle. It's not on the counter, on the mantle. So she's like, well, maybe I have to open the bag. I said, no, baby, just turn it a certain way, it'll fit it, and it's inside the box. She put the paperwork inside of it to close it up, and put her mother on the mantle on each side, and you know, you can see the sadness inside it, but there's nothing I can say to make it better. Nothing I can do. I mean, I tried to give her love, but she didn't exactly want that. I backed away and let her grieve in any way that she could. So this is all happening again. That's why we haven't did a podcast, because literally it happened in that time that, you know, with all this strange and craziness that's going on right now, this is not something that you really want to be dealing with. You really want to be able to hunker down with all your family, but she lost one, and there was nothing she can do about it. And it's not that you ever can do something about it, because you can't. You know, people go when they go. My mother-in-law, you know, my mother, sorry, had died of sepsis shock. She was vibrant, healthy, you know, literally 1 minute, and then within a week's time she was gone. She wasn't sick. She literally got sick very fast and died very fast from septic shock. So it was like, you're never prepared for when you lose a family member. we knew that it was coming, but not in the way it was coming. Because again, you don't Corona stuff. You don't what during the Corona time. You're not going to think that's so. A new thing creeps into the world's consciousness when and elderly people are always the first one to get hit. The elderly and the young. Now it's completely crazy. You have places shut down, but again, we were shut down. We're locked down. So again, the last weeks of her life, she was basically alone. And again, she had the nurses around and everything else like that at the hospital, but that's not family. Now again, my wife would doing the Corona stuff, try to call her on the phone, and the lady, they would put on speakerphone, and she would be talking to her and everything else. So they would try to talk to her, but that's still there's no, without physical contact, without seeing a person, that giving the eye-to-eye contact in that touch, you lose something. And again, we all say we all die alone, which is true, but you always want to, the ultimate outcome when you do pass, you hope that you're surrounded by family and friends, and everything is going to be all right. Everybody can commiserate with everybody else and get through it. That's not something that my wife had, and I'm sorry. I wish I wish she didn't pass, and I wish she had. It was a time with literally that she can have her extended family around to give her support. Because again, her brother and can talk about stuff that, okay, remember mom did this. Remember, I didn't have that. It was just me and my mom, so there was the only, even if I did have my family around for that, they might be able to talk about the stuff that they helped her with, but they didn't see her all the time. Again, for the past 3 years, she was a daily part of life. It was a daily part of our consciousness, her ups, our downs, her triumphs and her falls. You always want to hopefully have, again, when your family member passes, you always want to hopefully have family and friends around. Something that every person wishes that they have. Unfortunately, she didn't. My wife didn't get the time that she wanted with her in the end, and her mother didn't have family around with her. Again, good for goodness sake, she was able to see her mom, at least, and her mom can see her from a distance, and they were able to at least have that. So it's just something that I wish no one else. I wish that everybody in the world lived forever, but unfortunately, our time on this earth is finite. It is limited. I'm looking at the downward part of my life now, because I am 49 years old. I will turn 50 at the end of the year. You have to look ahead at yourself, like, okay, well, the best case scenario, if everything goes right, you have maybe 30 more years, which would be 80. That's not a lot of time. So make sure when you have done everything that you need to do, and you've been kind and well to everybody else. Now, I've had the luxury of basically helping up a whole lot of people out in my time on this earth, and I've never gotten the respect back for what I've done. Her mom wasn't always pleasant, and I wouldn't want to say that came back in the end of why she got what she had, but sometimes things happen. And now again, that might be a cold, stark sentiment to say, because I'm supposed to be all about the joy that she gave. Now again, I can remember the days, that stuff that she did for our kids. Even my daughter, my middle daughter, remembers, like, I remember she used to give me candy. She used to do this for me. So she does have good memories, and I have good memories of her mom too, of doing some good stuff, good things. So, but you always want to be that person. You always want to be the person that does right by everybody else, so that when your time comes to meet your maker, that book, that ledger, that balance sheet is in your favor. But that's all I have to say. So hopefully you guys are all being safe in this time of worry. Hopefully you're good, and hopefully no one else loses their life to this corona. We already know that more people per day is going to lose their life to this until this thing goes away. But be safe, be well, and be kind. This is Warp 103 saying warp out, have fun, and hopefully we'll catch you the next one.